Welcome to another episode of the INDY Sports Recap. I'm your man Usmiso Msomi, senior journalist at Independent Media. A lot of Nedbank Cup action to discuss from over the weekend. A lot of good football, a lot of big decisions, a lot of drama. So let's just get into it and see how much of that we can dissect. Yeah, so we obviously know who the final four are now. Orlando Pirates will welcome Marumo Gallants to the Orlando Stadium in the first semi-final before Kaizer Chiefs will travel to either Mamelodi Sundowns or Sekhukhune United. That's going to be, that quarterfinal between Mamelodi Sundowns and Sekhukhune is certainly going to be one of the most watched games in the country this year. Of course, it was postponed originally from this past weekend. Stadium double booking. Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of Amakhosi fans will be looking at that game with intrigue, and not only Chiefs fans who potentially could face Sundowns or Sekhukhune in the semi-final, but also from a Gallants and Orlando Pirates perspective. I'm sure, even though they'd like to focus on the immediate opponents, but that thought of a potential final with either Chiefs, Sundowns, or Sekhukhune will also be something that's starting up at the back of their minds. So obviously SuperSport United unfortunately out despite a very gutsy performance. We've seen a lot of inconsistent showings or displays by Matatanta this season, and I'm sure it has a lot to do with the fact that they have a lot of youngsters in their team. Lebo Maboe seems to have sort of helped them find balance between those. So it was no shock to me that they were able to take Orlando Pirates all the way to the penalty shootout. Yes, eliminated, but I'm sure Coach Kevin Hunt would look at them with a certain level of pride. And I mean, they just ran into a team that seems to have something special when it comes to these sort of cup competitions. Of course, Pirates, the defending champions of the Nedbank Cup, they're looking to win it for the third time in a row. They're looking to become the first club to do that. They were the first club to do that with the MTN8 as well. So we're not talking about a Mickey Mouse Cup team here. We're talking about Orlando Pirates. So SuperSport, I'm sure, will look at themselves and think, we were able to take them that far, and it's the lottery of the penalty shootout. From a Pirates perspective, yes, I'm sure Coach Rivera will be very happy to go through. Still unbeaten in the Nedbank Cup, by the way. Coach Rivera, since he arrived in the country, he's played 13 games. I think he's drawn 2, or he's drawn 1. Okay, but he's won because he's never been beaten, and he's progressed and he's won the cup 2 times. So he's won 13 games. So huge cup pedigree, huge experience. But what was lacking in the Orlando Pirates team was experience over the weekend. I'm sure no one, or Coach Rivera specifically, wouldn't have wanted to see the game go all the way to the penalty shootout because of the risky nature of a penalty shootout. But I think the fact that they had so many youngsters in their team sort of didn't give them any choice. Having youngsters in your team is a good or a bad thing. Of course, I'm sure a lot of people will be very quick to point out that Umbekezeli Mbokazi scored the first goal of the game for Pirates in his second start for the club. Very, very, very bright prospect for the future, by the way. But he was also part of a back four that featured him and Undlozi at right back, another youngster coming from the club's development. You're playing against a SuperSport side that has relative experience as well. So it could have been a dicey, and it was a dicey fixture, but eventually they were able to come through that. But also with the cons of having youngsters is the fact that there's an inconsistency that you have to expect and that you have to deal with. So we are starting to see it now, more specifically with Urele Mofokeng. Yes, very very good player, special player by the way, and this has this will not discredit any of his attributes because he is a very very special player, but he's going through a period now where he doesn't sort of need Pirates to solely rely on him. Yes, at a big club you need to perform consistently. That is not debatable. But he's going through a phase now where everyone sort of expected that it would happen, and a lot of some of the club's senior players are he's going to be looking to them for help, not just in a performance base, but also in a mental base. Yeah, and then jumping on to probably the most dramatic game we've seen in recent seasons, Kaizer Chiefs versus Stellenbosch. Whew, where do you start with this one? There's a lot of talking points, but first things first, the Chiefs' performance. Okay, the Chiefs' progression. Obviously, they reached the semifinals of the same competition last season. Eventually knocked out by the arch rivals Orlando Pirates, so they'll be pleased to be able to get back to that stage again. It, particularly in that game, very very good performance, and that's not something that you would associate with Chiefs in recent seasons or even in this season with Coach Nabi. There's been a huge inconsistency. So for them to be able to churn out that sort of performance against a very good Staley side as well. I think Staleys are just unlucky. Chiefs always seem to find the right tempo, the right mood, the right vibe, the right confidence whenever they come up against Staleys. I don't know. I just think it's one of those teams because I think they've beaten them 6 out of the last 7 times they've played them, and that usually in the last 2 or 3 seasons, Staleys have been probably the favorites coming into those games because of the sort of trajectory that they've made over the years, but still Chiefs just always find a way to get past Staleys. So very good performance from Chiefs. Stellenbosch didn't start well, came back stronger in the second half. Obviously, because they were trailing, needed to risk and find something out of the game because it is a cup game at the end of the day. But yeah, they're unlucky, I would say. Yeah, so obviously the deciding factor of that game was that late Pulemodi goal. A lot of opinions were raised about it, whether it was from a Kaizer Chiefs perspective, a Staley's perspective, an officiating perspective as well. A lot of people viewed it and had their own say about it, but yeah, so we had to consult. I had an opportunity to speak with a fellow refereeing committee or a national refereeing committee member who's based in KZN. When I attended the Marumo Gallants and Durban City game yesterday. So yeah, so there's 2 points of contention here. Was Bulemodi offside? 2, was it a foul on Sage Stevens? So let's start with the foul, since it's the easier of the 2. So the foul, according to Mr. Binda, who I spoke to yesterday, according to him, the foul is determined by the referee's discretion, as are all other fouls on the field. So the referee decides whether there was enough contact to warrant a foul. So obviously when George Matlow leans onto Sage Stevens, we know goalkeepers are a protected species anyway, but when George Matlow leans onto Sage Stevens, and then the linesman flags and says there's a potential foul there, and then the referee goes and consults with the assistant to hear what he was flagging for, because there could have been 2 things. It could have been the offside and it could have been the foul. And as we have found out, it was for the foul. So when the assistant referee says no, there was a foul, and then the referee says, I saw that contact, but it wasn't enough to warrant a foul, then that's why the goal was inadvertently given afterwards. Because after consultation, the linesman says, I saw a foul there on the goalkeeper, and then the the referee, who has every right to overrule any decisions the assistants makes, by the way. That's another mistake that I saw that was frequently made on social media over the weekend. It was the assumption that the referee can't overrule the assistant. Any decision made by the assistant is subject to the discretion of the referee. That's what's written in the FIFA rulebook. Any decision that's made by the assistant is subject to the discretion of the referee. So Mr. Skhumbuzo Gasa, who was the referee on the day, had every right to overturn the original decision or the original call for a foul by the assistant referee. So that's why he ended up giving the goal. And then two, the offside. So one, it's not an offense to be in an offside position. But what happened there was, originally, Pulemodi was in an offside position. But when the ball goes up to Sage and he punches it onto Fawaz Basedin, it plays Pulemodi on, simply because the ball comes off a Staley's defender last before it comes onto Modi. So now if the ball didn't touch anyone and it landed at Modi's feet, he would have been offside originally because he was in an offside position. But because the ball is punched by Sage Stevens and lands on the back of Fawaz Basedin and then lands on the feet of Pulemodi, then he's deemed onside now because the ball comes off a Staley's defender last. So that's why that call was given. And according to national consultation, the goal was rightly given, and it was a good call by, again, the referee Skhumbuzo Gasa, even to overrule the assistant, and even to be able to pick out that sort of situation in that moment at that type of time. So yeah, I think Chiefs, uncharacteristically so, were on the right side of a major decision this weekend. And then the final game of the weekend, Durban City obviously bowing out to Marumo Gallants at the Chatsworth Stadium. Not the best games to watch on the day, if I'm being honest. But it was nothing that we didn't expect already. And a Motsepe Foundation Championship team. Not disrespect to the league, but in terms of quality, we know what we sort of expected. Marumo Gallants that's struggling in the DSC, in the Betway Premiership as well. So yeah, not the it was more of a dogfight than a football game with very few chances created, and it was no surprise that it went all the way down to the penalty shootout with no goals scored even during the game. So there's not a lot of talking points from the game, but one, Durban City have been very clear and vocal about their priorities this season. They clearly said that the Nedbank Cup is not a competition that they're keenly looking to keep progressing in, because they know there could be severe consequences to be suffered in their league campaign. Obviously, they are leading in the Motsepe Foundation Championship and they're vying for promotion, and they've been very clear about the fact that they don't want anything to interrupt those ambitions. So maybe a relief for Coach Simo and his boys, and for the club owner, Mr. Kadodia, as well, who again has been vocal for weeks that yes, they're playing, but their main priority is the league. So, in as much as they're knocked out of a major competition where they could have done something special as well, but yeah, I think the overriding emotion in that change room at the final whistle was more relief. Yeah, but on the opposite end of that is Marumo Gallants, who perhaps received a welcomed boost from that win. Of course, we know they're struggling to keep their place in the top fight next season, and it looks like it's going to be a dogfight in the final 10 games of the Betway Premiership campaign. So they're going to need every dose of positivity, every dose of optimism, every dose of confidence that they can get from every situation. And I think being a part of the last four of the Nedbank Cup might provide that sort of lift and that sort of confidence to suggest that they have enough in them to be able to retain their place in the top flight. So yeah, a relief for Durban City, but a welcome boost for Marumo Gallants. It's going to be interesting to see how the competition unfolds from here moving forward. Again, Orlando Pirates welcoming Marumo Gallants to the Orlando Stadium. The dates yet to be confirmed. And also Kaizer Chiefs will travel to either Mamelodi Sundowns or Sekhukhune United, depending on who wins that quarterfinal. So yeah, if there's one thing that we obviously always guaranteed with the Nedbank Cup is drama. So I wouldn't be shocked if we have another one of those. So yeah, thank you for tuning in once again. Thank you for being a part of this discussion. I'll hopefully you keep that discussion going in the comment section as well. And yeah, see you next week.